Here we go. All right, now we are recording. By the grace of God, this is the Awesome Show. This is the first installment of the segment. Ask an Awesome Dad. So basically, Mark here reached out to me. Well, not specifically to me, but to the autism community via Facebook, and he wanted to know some things and some points, basically to make him more effective for his community with his job. The post struck me because he is an officer, and these are things that officers don't do. But he wanted to learn a little bit more. Instantly, the thought process came to mind like, hey, I would love to answer his questions. If he had some difficult questions, which he feels as though maybe people wouldn't be receptive to, I am. So what better way to do this than put it up on the show? Hopefully, me and Mark can work in the future, and his superiors and some of his fellow brothers and sisters. We can work together as far as building a program where I will be willing to talk to anyone within his particular department or any department about being a awesome parent, what it means for our awesome children, what to look out for, and how they can better serve our awesome community. That would be the autism community for some people who aren't familiar with my show. So what I ask for you during this, ladies and gentlemen, is one, no bias towards his profession. I am ex-law enforcement. I am a public service representative. I am a volunteer firefighter, so I am in serving the public. He is too. I wish that you guys say prayers for him, because once again, he did this out of his own heart in order to want to know questions so he can better equip himself to service his community. So I just want you guys to see this in the same love that I do, and wish him the best. And hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of us. So Mark, thank you again. This
Thank
time is a
you.
little bit better because I actually pressed the recording button. So,
Hey,
all right.
it
So
works.
Mark, whenever you are ready, you could go ahead with your questions, and
All right.
I'm here.
All right. I want to thank you for having me here. All right. I'm going to start off with now number one. All right.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna throw
right.
you a curveball. All
Throw me a
right.
curveball.
All right. This is two parts.
Okay.
Does Shane know right from wrong? If
Okay.
so, how do you punish him versus another child his age without autism?
Wow. Man, you got some questions. I'm about to make you co-host on my show. You got some questions, man. Um, Shane recognizes what is right and wrong. He does. Shane has a problem with personal space. So that can translate into knowing what's right and wrong when it comes to being overly excited in someone's personal space, or quickly hugging you and like because he's excited about something, and you'd be like, whoa, you can't do that with everybody. So it's kind of hard to say, try to put it in perspective if he knows right or wrong, because some things that he does unknowingly, but it's just to show his pleasure for something, and someone may take it as a wrong thing to do.
Okay.
Um, if that answers that part of the question. For the punishment, uh, Shane was diagnosed with autism, high functioning autism, which is not irrelevant these days. When it comes to diagnosis of autism, is you have it or you don't have it. If it's severe, it's severe. If it's not, it's not. They try to move away from the high functioning, because it sort of like gives one child who is on the spectrum a higher plateau than another child, and we're all in this
Okay.
together. Everybody
That
is
makes sense.
one. So what I like to do personally is I talk to him man to man. What I do is I tell him to come here. He comes to me. Um, I'd say, look at me in my eye. He looks at me in my eye. He puts his hand straight down, and I explain to him in a very calm voice, similar to what we're talking about. Hey, you know what you did was wrong, right? Yes. Okay. Why was it wrong? I really questioned him so he can understand, okay, well, I shouldn't have did this. He repeats it back to me, and I'll be like, okay, daddy is not upset with you, but you cannot do this anymore. He says, okay. And then I say, I love you. And I say, go ahead and continue on. And that's it. That's how I punish him. That's how I punished him. Uh, he's 12 now. I say from the age I started at 8, when I figured he could start to really understand, what you put it as in right for wrong, what he was doing wrong, what he was doing right.
Sorry, my wife walked in the room. I was checking her out real quick.
It's
That makes
cool.
that makes perfect sense because I mean, everybody's different. I'm sure you're around my age, and if I did something wrong and my dad looked at me, I knew whether I was getting beat or not. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I, I just wondered if Shane, and again, I'm still learning, so
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong. Like you
Hmm.
said, I know you're getting away from, but the higher functioning versus the less functioning, and I know there's a difference between how much each person on the spectrum understands. I was just wondering where. I mean, you explained it all in one answer, which I appreciate. You explained where Shane kind of falls on that,
Hmm.
and how it is that okay, well, you can. He does understand right from wrong, like,
Hmm.
that to me is impressive and it's awesome because like I know there are some kids out there and
That,
adults too that
yeah,
it just doesn't click. They don't
yeah.
understand. Well, I have to look both ways before I cross the street. Like it
That's
just
that's
doesn't
one
it doesn't click.
that's one thing. See, the thing specifically about Shane is that when it comes down, and it's funny you mentioned that look, because I think that's synonymous across the board. That is a universal look that if you get that look, you're like, oh, wait a second. Because Shane, I give Shane that look, and he's like, he'll stop
And
and he'll
he
look at
gets
me
it.
like,
That's great.
exactly, he gets it. But then again, it's things like crossing the street where now he gets it, but he forgets a lot. So what it is, that comfortability. If he knows he's with me, in his mind, he's like, okay, daddy's with me. Nothing bad can happen to me. So he'll walk across the street, not even looking both ways. And I have to stop him and be like, Shane, hold up. Did you look both ways? And he'll be like, oh, and he'll like hurry up back and look both ways. And then once again, I'll talk to him while we're walking across the street and say, hey, daddy's not going to be here all the time. And even if daddy's here, sometimes my attention may be elsewhere. So you got to stay on point. And he'd be like, oh, okay. I'm sorry, daddy. I'm sorry. He really wants to make sure he's apologetic about things, which can be a gift and a curse in society when we live. But he
Right.
wants to make sure he never makes me dissatisfied. So he'll apologize, and I have to reassure him, hey, it's okay. Daddy just wants you to be safe. And he'll be like, okay, and we'll continue on.
That's awesome. That basically knocks out the next question then. All right.
Oh,
So I mean, hey, two
what's
birds,
the
one
what's the next
stone.
question? We might we might we
All right.
might be able to get some
Well,
more.
all right. Well, how well does he understand that what he did was wrong? I mean, I mean, he understands what the look is, which
Yes.
to me is great.
Yes.
Um, and you're able to explain to him what he did wrong. And I'm sure that there are some things that he may not ever get, but the
Uh-huh.
fact that I don't even know how to put it into words. The fact that he has enough to understand that okay, well that was wrong, and now and he got punished, the talking
Mm-hmm.
to, however you want to put it,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's able to just go right back into what he was doing, and hopefully, especially when it's something like crossing the street, safety wise, that he remembers and goes, or something goes off, says, "Oh, I shouldn't do this," or you know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, taking something when you're a kid, taking a toy from another kid or something, that's not a big deal. But when it comes to safety, crossing the street, especially in a very populated area where people don't
Exactly.
care if you step out in front of them, don't care if there's a stop sign there.
Exactly.
That to me is more important than the little bit of what kids do. You know what I mean? As far
Exactly.
as what kids do every day that, yeah, it's wrong. Don't do that again. I slap your hand or whatever. But more like,
Mm-hmm.
traffic or, I take something off the shelf and I walk out the store because I want a Snickers bar. And then it gets blown into, you know, oh, well, he's stealing from me or this, that, and the other, that's where my job comes in. If I come into something like that and it's like, well, there's something that's not
It's
all
not
there
clicking.
with this person.
Yeah,
They want the Snickers bar. I can understand they want the Snickers bar, but I don't understand why this person who's old enough in my eyes to know, money product,
exactly.
where's the missing link? That's where that helps me, because it's just good to know that he can understand that. But
Good.
but yeah, so I mean, we pretty much knocked that one out. All right, so here we go. Here's another good one.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, you said that earlier. All right. All right. Being a father, juggling work, childcare, finances, and life. What do you do to keep your cool and not get caught up in anger and depression?
Man, you're right. Man. Um, wow. Because I've been to the point of depression. Um, I really, really, really have to say my faith. Above anything, and I've been through unemployment. I've been through previous relationships where that person walked out. I've been through, of course, we were speaking a little bit about bad marriage and stepping out, my ex-wife stepping out on me. Um, we're currently in a pandemic. A lot of people are losing their jobs. And I have to say, the one thing that has calmed me down is solely my religion. It gives me a peace where I can look at every situation and even my son's situation outside the box and be able to handle that effectively without anger or overextended emotion. Because, once you start doing that, everybody in your household mimics that because it floods inside that emotion, that feeling. It's just, excuse me, it's just bad. It's bad karma, bad waves, however you want to put it. It just puts in. So I would have to say my religion.
That's awesome. That's great. That's awesome. That makes it easier, doesn't it?
it
Saying,
makes it
oh, well, I
makes
gotta
it,
go
it
do
makes,
this, or I gotta go
yeah,
do
it makes
this.
it a whole lot easier, man. Sometimes the best thing is just being still, man. Being still and just looking at, because everybody seems like they have an answer, but nobody has the correct answer. Everybody got an answer for something, but nobody has the correct answer. I'm not to inflict anybody's perception of a religion. I'm a Christian, and what we believe in is that every answer is in the Bible. So, and it's predated, but it still manages with things of everyday life. So if I'm going through a struggle, I don't go to my boys first. I'm speaking
Right.
truth. I go straight to the word and I read, and then I meditate on that a little bit. And then, the company I keep, they're on the same path. So they speak on it, but they know that at the end of the day, that talk is going to be between me and God, and I'm going to come out with an answer from him. So.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Uh, Number next, because we're out of order here. If if there was one piece, and this is probably going to be hard, but one piece of knowledge you could give every person in the world about autism, what would that one thing be?
Man, you about to get Academy Award for these questions, man. Yeah, you making me feel some type of way. Like, dang, I'm not that good yet. Woo. Um,
I'm just grooming you.
just grooming me. There you go. I accept that. I definitely accept that gift. One piece of knowledge I would like to give the world. I think it goes back to one of my previous sayings is that when you look at a child that's on the spectrum or a child grown into an adult that's on the spectrum, we classify them as not being normal by society standards. Whereas though I look at the evolution of my son Shane so far and just coming to grips with him evolving later on, maybe we aren't the normal ones. Maybe we are the ones who are disabled to some degree. I remember in some of my classes back in high school, we only use about 10% of our brain. If you look at the average IQ of those on the autism spectrum, they are extremely too intelligent, to the point where some of them have photographic memory. Like my son, he has proven to me he has photographic memory, and he displays that when he rebuilds um, uh, train yards or bridges with trains on them to the T. Um, we need to stop looking at these children as if they are with a disability, and really start looking at them as, what's your gift? What's your superpower? Because the number one thing that these children are exuding that we miss when we come out of that childhood stage is empathy and compassion. This stays with them well into uh, whatever age they may live with. So why can't we learn from them um, more with our heart and soul, rather than with scientific numbers and explanations? You see what I'm saying? Like, we're
Absolutely.
these children are not lab rats. There are something that we need to learn from these kids that only they can give us. Nobody else can. So, my message out to the world is learn something. Learn more about children on the spectrum, these awesome children. Um, See what you can gain from them and give back to the world. Because it goes back once again, like, I truly believe we aren't the normal ones here. They are.
That's an awesome answer. No pun intended. It makes sense because um, the little bit that I have learned, or where I started and to where I am now, I have seen that where it's more of like, again, I don't know how to put this in the words, but someone that's on the spectrum, okay, well, they have a disability. All right, well, they can't do A, B, or C, but what they can do is something
Mm-hmm.
I will never be able to
Never
do.
be able
I would
to.
have,
Yep.
I would literally have to take a picture of a
Yep.
train yard to remember what color the freaking train is. I mean, I
Yep.
can't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. And you've got
My
these kids that
my
are,
son Shane, right now, if we were to drive out of state, and he has proven this with me driving to Ohio, because my dad lives in Ohio, he will memorize the exact way to get to Ohio, the exact way from the expressway, from the routes, the interchanges, to exact turns and streets from here, Philadelphia, all the way to Ohio.
that's insane. I've been going to the same campground for, I think this is our third year. Today
Okay.
was the first day. Today was the first day I didn't use my GPS and didn't get lost. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there you go. There you
There
go.
you go.
They're
Exactly.
not right. So we should learn from them. I
We
don't know
should
what it is.
definitely
What
learn from
is he?
them.
Is it his diet or something that I can like? Is it the same
Exactly. I
diet I
need
can get
something.
on?
It's something. It's something. I don't know if it's glasses, it's brain
I,
power. I need some of that swag. Just
I
need it.
hear you.
Okay, you know what? I'm good. I don't need a GPS anymore, because I put on the GPS just to go around the corner and be like, oh, that's the name of the
You ain't.
street. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
You're preaching to the choir, brother. I couldn't do it. That's it. All right. Next one. What challenges do you face as an awesome parent on a daily basis that I don't?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Um, all right, let me see how I'm gonna chop this up. Um, all right, so we both think about our children when it comes to their future, their health, what's going to happen to them when we leave. That's one of the biggest thing with us awesome parents, is who's going to take care of our children once we go. Because the world is just cold-hearted for the most part. Not everybody, but a large percentage is cold-hearted about themselves, um, and want to just take care of their own. And some people's motto is survival of the fittest. Well, our children, don't have those boundaries. Our children is just lovable towards everyone. So I think the biggest thing for me, and I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Okay, so I have this. He had a sixth grader back to school night, which was a party for just newly sixth graders. So his mom hit me up and said, "Hey, do you mind taking them to this party?" And I said, "Sure, I don't mind." Um, and immediately when I said, "Yeah, I don't mind," was okay. Are they going to make fun of him? Like that was the immediate thing that came to my mind is, who are these kids? Are they going to make fun of them? So I didn't say anything. He was happy. He was energetic about it. I picked him up. Mom he had a nice outfit on, haircut was on point. He was good. So I was like, all right, he really wants to go. So we went around there, and there was another parent, and I talked to her and I said, hey, I was like, pulled her to the side and said, do you know all the kids that go to the school? And she said, yeah, I'm pretty familiar. And I said, well, do you know Shane? And she's like, no, not really. And I was like, well, and it's kind of a battle for us parents to sometimes explain or give that label, like, okay, well, my son is on the autism spectrum, because it's almost like we're saying, hey, my son has the potential to be great, but he's in the autism spectrum. So that perception automatically is just like, okay, they're an amazing kid, the other person, I mean, and then they're like, okay, I have to treat them different. And that's what we don't want. We don't want treatment different for our children. We just want you to be more sympathetic in the way you go about it. So I talked to her and
Beautiful
I was like,
knowledge.
I talked to her and I was like, I just want him not to be made fun of and to interact. And she's like, I think he's going to be okay. She saw what he was wearing, and I was like, yeah, and she's like, no, I think so. And she pointed out into the auditorium, and my son had about like 6 girls around him, and he was like dancing like this. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, are you serious? And what I mean, like, I had to not like tear up, because I'm like, thank you, Lord. Like, thank you. So to sum it up, I think social acceptance is like one of the biggest things that I worry about every single day, is how are people receiving my son, to the bus driver, to the aide that's helping them in school, to the principal, to him going out in the street with me and his mother, for those who, people that haven't, run into him. I think that's the biggest thing. The only thing probably that would differ between me and you. I think everything else is pretty much how a father would feel across the board.
Yeah, I can understand that. And that is one, it's good to know that your son isn't like you and gets lots of ladies. Two,
You're right about that.
I mean, two, that's awesome. I mean, again, going back to how much I've learned from that one Facebook post, I have, and I don't mean to toot my own horn when I say
No,
this, but
no,
I
go
have been
ahead.
able,
No.
just going out like restaurants, grocery stores, I have been able to see, especially kids, because that's what I pay attention to the most. I've been able to
Mhm.
see like the ticks and the how they act and react. Sorry, my wife's dog is
No, it's all
stupid.
good.
Uh, and pick up on things that a year ago I wouldn't have noticed. Whoop, thanks. I
Mhm.
wouldn't have noticed. I just would have thought, okay, it's a kid being a kid. But then I noticed after all these posts and all these things of what these parents have told me, like, okay, well, it's not to go, oh, well, that kid's on the spectrum. No, it's to go, all
Yeah.
right, well, if something were to happen, because that's how my mind is always turning, what's going to happen when I go to the store.
Mhm.
That's someone that's going to need more attention than the other person that I think is 12.
Mhm.
The other person that's 12, if I yell at them, say, yo, go run down the hallway, they're going to run
Yeah.
down the hallway. The other one might not, which is my biggest concern, which I haven't, not to ruin anything, but I haven't posted that on that Facebook page yet. I want to, but I think I really need to work on how I'm going to word it, because it's going to push a lot of buttons, because
It is.
the whole danger thing, like with like coming to know Shane through you.
Mhm.
I think if you weren't there, but I was there, and there was some type of emergency, I think he may understand that he needs to move, or he needs to run, or he needs to do A, B, or C.
Hmm.
Whereas a kid with less functioning, or however I should put it, may not know. Well, then now I
Exactly.
need to know what's the best route. Do I go up and
Exactly.
grab this kid
Exactly.
and drag him out?
Yeah.
Or well, we're not there yet. I'm telling you, man, my brain's hurting all this
No,
knowledge you're giving me.
you're right. You have the sense of security. So you're always thinking like, okay, how am I going to approach this kid to get him from 0 to 60
Yep.
now? Like, I need him
Yep.
out the way. I need everybody to understand. And you're perfectly right. Shane will sit there now. Before, nah, you would definitely be like, hey, I need you to move. And he will just look at you like, okay, like, what's going on? He would constantly just sit there. Now he'd be like, I need you. If you were to say, I need you to go with your classmates, run over there, he'd be like, oh, okay, okay. And he will run. He will follow your commands because he understands them more. But that's a good point, because there's still children out there, or young adults, or even adults, that would just look at you and be like, they will have sort of that lost look, and
Right.
you'll be like, why are you not understanding me? There's a disconnect there. you know
Right.
Now you're getting the tools to sit there and be like, okay, I have to now start to word it or inquire about him to make him feel comfortable, in order to seek the proper commands for him to feel comfortable to move out the way, so he knows what's going on. It makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Where are we now? Let's see.
All over the map. All over the
Yeah, we
map.
are. Yeah, we are. All right. Um, all right. For parents with very little knowledge about autism, like myself,
Hmm.
how do you suggest we explain autism to our young children? And by young, I'm talking 10 years old, give or take a few years.
Okay. Wow, another good one. Ooh, you really got me stumped there for a
Well,
minute.
hey
Hold
man,
up.
this better be a good answer, because this is what I'm
I
going to tell
know.
my kids in a couple hours. So
I know.
it
Hey,
better be
yo, he
good.
gonna put it into play. Like, hey, Jay, you know what? That didn't work, bro.
Try again.
That didn't work, boss. That didn't work. You gonna have to hook me up with something else. Um, I have to really say, um, oh wow.
All right, you know what?
I would have to
While you
say, I
think
would
about
have to
that,
say,
I'm gonna add to that, because this
okay,
next question, it kind of ties in, and it may help you answer it, or it may not, maybe make it
okay.
worse. All right.
Thank you for
So
the bone. Thank you for the bone.
so how do I explain to my kids that the poor or bad player on her sports team is not because is not good because he or she is on the autism spectrum?
Okay.
That they kind
All
of
right.
tie together.
They do. So what what I would say is that they aren't a bad player. So all right, so let's
Yeah, I don't.
let's let's
Yeah,
break.
how to word that?
No, that's fine. Let's break down the verbiage. I would basically say, hey, your teammate over there. Let's use Shane's name for example. Your teammate Shane over there. Yes, Daddy. He's really not that good at this sport. Nobody wants him on his team. Blah blah blah. Okay, so from what Daddy sees is that Shane needs a little more development. What are you talking about, Daddy? Well, I think Shane needs to be with someone who is a little bit more experienced with playing like you. Oh, okay, but what do you mean? I think maybe you should help him out with some of the earlier things you learned back when such and such. What I'm getting at is not so much saying that, you know, individuals like Shane are bad, just that they need a little more practice to make them a little bit more better. Um, how would I it's kind of hard because the verbiage, and even from us awesome parents, sometimes we have difficulties speaking to other awesome parents, And sometimes we have like little bickers too, because like, oh, what you mean by this, or I might say,
Right.
oh, what you mean like Shane? So it's basically just explaining like, hey, my son basketball, he loves basketball. Perfect example. He just went to a basketball camp. Another thing for me again, I had to pull the guy because he was a young kid that was in charge of a group of kids, and my son was in that group of kids. I had to pull him aside, be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Introduce myself. I'd be like, "I just wanted to let you know that my son Shane is on the spectrum," and I remember this specifically. He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." I said, "Do not treat him any different." And he looked at me for a minute. And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "If you want him to make a layup, tell him to make a layup. If he does it wrong, correct him. He knows he can do it. You just may have to redirect." And that's a key word. Redirection is basically the word that us awesome parents use. It's basically making sure we get them to correctly do anything, whether it be sitting down in class, writing out a correct sentence, going in the correct door. We're redirecting them on what they should actually be doing. So he said, okay. He looked at me. He said, okay, cool. And I said, no problem. I appreciate you. He went back over with my son. My son got in line. He followed. When it was his time to lay up, he laid up. The kid instantly noticed that he did something wrong as far as his ability. Instead of letting him be like, oh, okay, that was a good try. No, correct him. Get him started on the correct academics so he knows how to properly do a layup. Um, I think it would just be an explanation that they just need a little more practice to make them better. That's the one way I would word it. And I think kids of all ages would understand that, and they would acknowledge that and want to help because they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I think I'm better, so I'm gonna get him on my level so we could go ahead and play with each other. You know?
No, it's good. I mean, I just this is what had happened to us. My one daughter is in basketball, and I don't know if they're twins, but they're close enough in age where they're in the same sports league, and they're both on the spectrum. And it's frustrating, but it's not, because overall she has a fantastic team. They all play well together. They pass the ball. I mean, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But you have two kids that are on the spectrum, and they at practice they're phenomenal. During a game, they stand there, and
Yeah.
I don't get frustrated because I understand. I understand, and I use that
Yeah.
term lightly.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating because the whole team is doing great. But if we had that one player, it would be, So, and I see it with the kids, because they get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, me myself, I can just slap myself in the face and say, "Yo, it's just a game," but it's harder to explain it to the. I don't know. I didn't know until today. I didn't know how to explain it. And
Yeah.
the way you explain it to me makes perfect sense. They know how to dribble the ball. They know how to shoot the ball. They know how to do a layup. They just need a little more practice.
A
It makes
little more
perfect sense.
practice. That's all it is. It's just about the verbiage. So like, all right, so like I tell a lot of the viewers that are going to be looking at this, me and you, uh, we share something law enforcement training. So I remember in my corrections officer training is the level of force modem. So you have verbal communication. If they don't respond to that, then you use to less lethal. Then if they don't respond to that, unfortunately, you don't have to, but you go to lethal to protect yourself. It's all about how you speak to somebody. You know what I mean? It's all about
Right.
how you connect with somebody. That initial say, hey, yo, what you doing over there? Oh, come on over here. Talk to me for a minute. You know what I mean? That gets them comfortable. Like, you might get a little resistance. Yo, what do you want? Yo, I'm not doing nothing out here. Yeah, I see you over there. You doing nothing, but that's something you can't do here. So I
Right.
need you to stop. I need you to keep on going on. Oh, okay, it's cool. Yo, just do me that favor, man. That's all I need from you today. All right, cool. And that's it. It saved me a lot of hassle when I was on the block by myself and I had to it was count time. It saved me a lot of headache. And then it saved me a lot of headache when we did have situations where I had to, suit up for the QRT team and had to be the first one in with the shield. So there was a lot of things. It's all about verbiage and how you communicate, and nobody's perfect. So, no one should look at Mark like he's, oh, well, there you go. He got that police officer. No, we're not doing that, because even the simplest people, you could go out on the street and instead of saying, excuse me, you'd be like, give somebody the wrong face, like, move out the way. People suffer with this every single day from all types of professions. So we should get rid of that label right now. And that was a good question. That was a good question, Mark. That was a real good.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that is hard, because it has somewhat come up where we go out as a family, and I, like, my youngest daughter has very very small filter between here and here.
Okay.
And I have no idea where she gets it. And so she said something like, what's wrong with him, or why is he doing that? And I'm like, I know. I'm like, where? And I just kind of come up with something with the fly.
Yeah.
So, but now that I have a better understanding, I can word it better. Make make more sense.
Yeah,
of
it
so
makes
that way
sense. It makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all good stuff. All right, well, because you cheated, you've heard these questions before, but now we're gonna get it on tape.
Now we're gonna get it on tape. All right. Let me take a drink of water. Let me get a drink of water.
Hydrate.
All
right, brother. All right, here we go. How long from the time you found out Shane was on the spectrum until you accepted it?
Okay. So we know that Shane was diagnosed. Well, the general public listening, my son was diagnosed at the age of 3. 3. He was born in 2008. My divorce was in 2005. Well, no. Okay, he was born in 2008. He was 3 when he was diagnosed, so that's 2011. My divorce was 2015 from his mom, so it took me 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. 4 years
Okay.
to process all of that.
And that to me makes sense. I mean, that's a lot to go from. Because like we did this talk about briefly earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's something as a dad, as a parent, as an alpha male, as whatever you want to call it. Like that can't happen. That's not my kid. There's nothing wrong with my kid.
Yeah,
my kid's perfect. There's nothing wrong. There's no problems. And then accepting. I mean, it blows my mind.
So it's 4 years too long. That's 4 years of possible treatment, therapy, something that could contribute to his success. And Shane by no means is unsuccessful right now. Everything he does, he excels and excels beautifully. Things that I would just sit there and be like, okay, how do you remember that? And he does it in school and everything. He has really a knack and a love for school. But, the guilt that I still kind of feel, and all parents on the spectrum, and even parents like yourself, for something that your child could have actually benefit from, even if it was like something like tutoring, whereas though you knew you had access for them to get tutoring, you just didn't, because you're like, oh, my son or my daughter is going to get it on their own, and they get a grade that's really not that great. You know what I mean? You'll feel some type of guilt. If I would have been a little bit mature, or how I like to put it, because I've been people has said that to me, is like, be a real man. That's 4 years I could have been able to assist my son with growth and development. But just like you said, and we spoke earlier, it was a lot of things that I was dealing with individually, as a man, that I couldn't process, and that was the selfish part of me, where it was just me. And I had this child, obviously, that was ailing in something, and needed assistance immediately. it's very, very, very important that we get our children diagnosed. Even we get the slightest inclination that something's off, because the development and the development delays and the therapies and everything, they work hand in hand to get the child right on the track that is needed as far as growth and development and throughout the years. So 4 years, 4 years, long time. I wish I could take it back, but 4 years, yeah.
What was the biggest obstacle when it came to accepting that Shane was on the autistic spectrum? What was the biggest obstacle for you?
Biggest obstacle for me was it was me basically saying to myself, I can't, have a and we're going to, like, this is just me thinking, first child, couple years ago. I'm not that type of person right now, but I can't have a retarded child. And I'm gonna just use that because everybody that grow up has heard this classification name. Oh, he's retarded, or we joked or used it back in the day. Oh, you acted retarded, but I was in a vulgar sense where I was just speaking about my own child. It's like, yo, I can't have a retarded child. And it's funny because when I was growing up, I have a medical ailment on my leg that should have hindered me, but people used to call me retarded. So you see how, like, the existence of just negativity when it comes down to people speaking into you, people speaking around you, can influence your perception in later days or even in that immediate sense. I was just like, yeah, my children are going to be, if it's a boy, he's going to be a strong man and virile and decisive and that alpha man. If I have a girl, she's going to be beautiful, and when she grow up, all the guys are going to want to have her and as a wife, and she's going to have kids, and that was that still is the dream, and it's going to come true with my son Shane. But that was the thought process, was like, yo, this can't happen to me, not me. I can't have a child like that. Nobody else in my family is like that. There's nothing wrong with me, things of that nature.
Awesome, man. That's powerful, because I would be in the same boat. I feel like you're explaining how I would feel in that situation. I do, because that's exactly how I would feel. So I totally, I'm getting you, brother.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna skip the siblings
Okay.
one because we already know that.
Yeah, we already talked about that. All right.
I thought this was good. We talked about this one earlier. I thought it was good. I think that this would help people like myself notice autism. How old was Shane when you first noticed signs of autism? How long did it take him to get diagnosed? So, like, kind of like, if you wouldn't mind going back to the train on the ledge.
Yeah. All right. So for the people that don't know, like we were discussing this interview, I forgot to record, so we could. So I got emotional. I did cry, so I might cry again.
Well, I wasn't trying to get that. Okay, I didn't
No,
say that.
I know you're not trying to get that on camera.
I recorded it.
I'm gonna try not. I'm gonna get through it as best as possible. So, me and his mother was basically married. She worked during the day. I worked overnight. Flyby sort of marriage, crumbling, however you want to put it. So I would basically come in. She would be leaving out. Shane's already in the playpen, awake. We got the TV on, cartoons for him. I'm tired. I'm coming home, laying down on the couch right next to him, gone. This was around the age of 2. I noticed Shane repeatedly wanted to get out the crib, crying excessively. And then, when I get up, I will pick him up, take him out the crib, and then he will want to get back into the crib immediately. And it would drive me crazy because we would go through this for like at least an hour, literally. And it was the fact of, just open availability for him. Before the autism diagnosis, this was a soothing mechanism for his sensory overload, and I didn't realize that. So back and forth, back and forth. I'm irritated. I'm mad. Um, Cursing at him. Like I was a jerk back then towards him, because I didn't understand what was going on with my son. I didn't understand what was going on with me. Fast forward 2.5, he started to walk on time. But what he was obsessed with was trains. Now, what he did do a lot was, and I'm gonna use the same book again as my Bible, as the linear object, and this is the train. He would line his trains up at the complete edge, exactly at the edge. Exactly. I mean, literally, the wheel would be at the furthest point possible not to fall over. And he would do that like that. He would do that for every single one of his trains. If something happened where his train fell over, just like what happened with this nail clipper, he would be hysterical to the point where you thought someone was murdering my son. He kept on, kept on, kept on. As I explained to Mark earlier, it was one point in particular. He was hysterical like nothing other. And I was so tired and so wrapped up in my own personal drama with his mom and then other things out in the street that I couldn't take it, and I forcefully pushed him away from the train in order for him to stop doing that. And when I did it, it made me feel like, what I mean, like really like a piece of crap, a real a-hole. But that was my coping mechanism with not seeing him do that. He immediately got back up, picked up the train, put it exactly at the end of the edge, and started doing this with his eyes. Now, what this is called in the autism community is called stemming. It's a way for them to control their sensory overload. It brings them basically pleasure. So just like similar to me and you having, let's say, a cigar, if you smoke, I do cigars here and there. We smoke, we relax, we're being pleased. This is what they do in order to please them. And he would do that literally nonstop. Go faster, 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 faster for at least 20 minutes. At that point, that was 2.5. At that point, it scared me excessively to the point where I'm like, there's something wrong with my son. Me and his mom, we weren't on the best terms. Communication sucked. But at that point, I stepped to her and I said, hey, has Shane been doing anything irregular to you? And she said, yeah. And at that one exact moment, throughout the time that we were actually married, we actually immediately came together and started speaking about the things we've been noticing. And then we sat there and just made a collective agreement that we need to go ahead and get him tested. And that was the scariest and hardest thing that you actually have to go through as a parent, and especially as a father, because you take blame for not being able to protect your child, so yeah, it was a year too long.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. How long does that process take, from the first doctor's appointment to being diagnosed? Is that like a couple visits? Is it a bunch of different doctors? Is it years?
No. When we went to CHOP and got him diagnosed, they started to run, get on their feet running with diagnosis of children. It took us back then, it was 2 appointments. Now your child can get diagnosed with 1. That kind of scares me because it's almost as rapid as people being diagnosed with COVID-19 these days. I mean? Like, people have sinuses. Like, it's raining right now. I have sinuses. I wake up, I'm drowsy, I'm congested, I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, my body's sore. Yeah, you got COVID-19. when really
Yeah.
we don't. We just have sinus problems.
Right.
But anyway, back to it. It took 2 visits previously when Shane got first diagnosed. Now they can diagnose a child in 1 visit. They have a series of tests where they take the child from you, they place them in a room with toys and different objects that is kid friendly, and a therapist sits in the actual room and just sees how the child relates each object, colors, associations, and see if they can actually do it on a scale, a national scale or a world scale of where they should be, developmental wise.
At that age, whatever age that they're taken, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was, I mean, I had no idea what the heck was going on. I thought it was like months and doctors and
Nah, nah.
this.
If they now, I've heard stories where parents have been going back and forth for months and months and months, and that's negligence on the doctor. And then sometimes, unfortunately, it's negligence on a parent because they don't really want to speak about it. So a parent can go to a doctor's office, doctor is up front like, hey, tell me what you've been noticing about your child. And they'd be like, oh, well, this and that, but they're not giving the doctor the
Full
whole
story.
story. And that's another thing that parents need to like really, you have to chalk up and speak to your doctor about what exactly is going on. Don't hold nothing back. Let them know exactly what's going on.
I mean, it's only going to hurt the kid at that point.
Exactly.
You know, it's only delay things or not get whatever help they need.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's all powerful stuff, brother. Um,
Thanks.
does Shane know right from wrong? And if so, how do you punish him versus another child his age without autism?
All right. So good question. We discussed that before. Um, Shane is in the process of knowing aspects of what's right and wrong. What I mean by that is that, give you an example. Shane knows because we talked about that look. That's that look from back in the day. Your parents give you that look like, boy, like you like, oh, like you about to get it. I give him that look, and he's receptive to it. He'll sit there and look at me and go like this, and he knows he did wrong, and he'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry," and I'll be like, "Okay, don't do it again," and that's it. Um, he's receptive in that area. There's another area, walking across the street, not looking both ways, not paying attention to his surroundings. Those are things that he is, I'm not going to say oblivious to. We're working on them, but he struggles with. And just like we were talking about before, he's comfortable with having daddy there, so he knows if daddy's there, oh, I'm safe. Nobody is going to hurt me. And sometimes I have to stop him right when he's walking across the street. I'm like, hey, did you look both ways? And he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. And he'll back up and he'll look. He's like, okay, daddy, no cars are coming. And then he'll continue walking across the street with me, but he will make sure, oh, daddy, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Next time I'll look, and I have to reassure him that it's okay and everything is fine. So he struggles on some things, but not everything. He knows about fire. He knows not to open doors for strangers. He knows um, that if he goes into, like, I drop him off at his mom's place, he has to go upstairs into an elevator as soon as he gets upstairs to give me a call, so I know he's in the actual their home safely. But it's other things like, he was watching YouTube the other day, and it was something with some profanity on there, and I'm like, yo, and as soon as I did, he's like, oop, I'm sorry, daddy, I'm sorry. So it's like, he knows a little bit. He's still learning.
That's awesome. I think it's, and we did talk about this earlier too. That's where making like my job, if I notice someone that is on the spectrum and trying in an emergency, trying to figure out what's going to work, what am I going to do verbally that's going to get through to that person,
Mm-hmm.
and I had talked to a few other parents on Facebook just briefly about, well, one of my questions was, do I talk to the child, whether, anywhere from, let's say around the age of 10, 8 to 12, whatever. Do I
Mm-hmm.
talk to them like I would talk to a puppy? Go, hey, come here, come here. And they were like,
Mm-hmm.
most of the answers were no. A few
Mm-hmm.
of them were yes, but I believe that may have been because their children were much younger. Whereas most of the answers were no, talk to them like you would talk to any other child that age. Use the
Exactly.
same assertiveness, same tone. And my piggyback question, which I'm going to ask you too, in an emergency, say it's a fire, say it's something, an emergency where something has to be done immediately. My blood pressure, my aggression, my testosterone, everything's going to be through the roof.
Everything is on high. Yep.
So my drill sergeant talking to you, to my wife, is me yelling and screaming at her, when that to me is just, yo, I'm getting your attention. You need to do what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
Where is that going to bump with, a younger kid that has autism, where they're going to not be open to that, where they may regress, or they may get scared, or they may want to do the opposite? That's where I've been trying to reach out and try to get understanding and answers. And the number one thing I found is that no person on the spectrum is the same. Every
Nope.
single one of them is different. So
Yep.
it may work. Something may work 1,000 times for Shane. It won't work one time for the guy standing next to him. So
You are right.
that's
You're right.
where I worry. That's what makes me come up with questions, as far as trying to understand how I can do my job effectively for someone on the spectrum and the guy standing next to him that's not on the spectrum, when there's a legit emergency happening. Like if I can't get there, or if I have to use verbal commands. I mean, you know how it is. If I got to go and drag somebody out of a house, I'm dragging them out of the house.
I gotta go. I gotta go and drag them out the house. Facts. Yeah. True.
No matter what. And I want to, you always want to try to not do that.
Of
It is what
course.
it is. But if I can notice someone's on the spectrum, and then try to do something verbally, like we talked about earlier, I need you over there, and I can do it verbally, that's great, because then that's checked off the list. I can go on to the next thing I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still blowing my mind as to how much I've been learning about all of this. It's insane.
You doing good. You're doing good more than other people. I mean, I'm still learning more about my son and those other individuals on the spectrum. So it's an everyday learning thing. But like I said before, is that the fact that you're taking the initiative to learn, when really right now you don't have to. There's no one immediately close to you, but this is going to make you a better server of the community, better in public service and your awareness. This may even help you as far as recognizing certain things for those off the spectrum. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, everybody still runs on the same foundation of alertness, of mental stimulation. There's so many things you can go into, like psychologically wise, that it's across the board is still the same thing. So like myself and those others who are going to see this, they're going to commend you. They're going to be like, wow, this is amazing that you're doing this. What I will say though, to that comment, is that the first thing that children are going to notice is the tone in which you direct an order. Just like you said, every child is different on the spectrum. So some may see it as too assertiveness. Some may see it as, wow, he really got my attention, so I need to really listen to him. But what they'll do is they'll classify you. So it's almost like a computer. They'll look at you and be like, wow. And then immediately see your badge and be like, oh, you're a police officer. And they'll go into questions. Hey, are you a police officer? And you'll sit there and be like, well, I have a uniform on. So why do you see they're breaking down the classification? Hey, he just yelled at me. He's a police officer. He's someone that's here for me for my safety. I need to listen to him. I'm curious about him. You see, it's going to fluctuate back and forth. So I definitely understand where you're going. Those ticks, we're going to classify them, are going to be those standing points that are going to stick out to you. Once, looking back at this interview and then answering more questions and running into more parents, you're going to really start to really look at situations, which you already do, and you feel from outside the box first. You evaluate everything that's going around, and then you choose the most effective way to carry out what your job is. So you'll do that. You'll do that.
Yeah, and I'm learning step by step. There's there's way more to this than I
Oh
could even
yeah.
have imagined.
This is only the surface. This is
And
only the
I don't think
only
I've
the
made it to the
surface.
surface yet. I think I'm still falling.
This
I
is
haven't.
only the surface. You've done a lot. I'm telling you, you've done a lot. But this is only the surface. Like it's so much information. It's almost like they really should be doing a course in college on this, because really you think about the great minds. Albert Einstein, he was on the spectrum. Look what he did. Yeah, I mean, his mind was so overloaded with factors and equations that you couldn't fathom, you couldn't understand it. You have people like artists like Dan Aykroyd, he Ghostbusters. How can you memorize the entire script and you're on the spectrum? You see what I'm saying? So there's so many pieces of elements to these children who are exactly what you said. Every single child is different. So that means that we have to study every single child to find the very, very basis of what's going on with this problem, with this diagnosis of autism. I mean, still today, you ask somebody, well, where does it come from? Now they're trying to say it's genetics. So now they're trying to pin us parents against the other, I mean, your significant other. Oh, it's your fault. It's in your genes. No, it's your fault. It's in your genes. That's not a good way to go. Once again, they don't know. They don't know.
Which is crazy because I mean, as far as I can remember, which isn't that long, it, there's always been you've always known there's that one kid, or you have like
Mm-hmm.
you have the special class, or you have the special
Uh-huh.
bus, or excuse me, whatever. So it's been around for at least 40 years, 30 years. So
Exactly.
it's not new, you know.
Exactly. You see, this is funny because one of my previous guests, his name is Samuel Huber. He's a college graduate, has a family, has children, works, does everything. He is on the autism spectrum. And he said, in his own words, this is his quote. He said, the fact of the matter is that we've been here. It's just that you guys are now classifying us. And I was like, when he said that, I was like, damn. I was
Yeah,
like, wait a second. He
yeah.
shut everything down with that one sentence. He said, we've been here. You guys are just now
Yep.
classifying us.
All right.
And
Well,
it's the truth.
there's the interview. That's that. What else? What else is there to
Drop
say
Mike
with
just like,
that?
oh,
All right, I'm out. I mean,
yo,
it's a freaking home run.
that's a grand slam right there. It's a wrap. That's it. No bases. Everybody's good. It's crazy, but it's the truth, man. It's definitely the
Absolutely.
truth. So
I
that's
think
it for your
that's.
questions. You
I
got any
think
more?
so. I think we covered them all. And if
We
not,
covered
then
them
I'll just.
all.
If not, after I rewatch this, I'll make
Yeah.
sure I come up with some more good ones for the next time.
Brother, keep them. Listen, I want to. I think people are going to be really, really, really proactive to listening to this. They're going to like the concept. They're going to like the chemistry. They're going to like that you are taking the initiative for this, and I think it's going to spark Ausome Father too. I think that's going to be the thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey,
So
I'm
I
ready whenever.
definitely appreciate you. Once again, before we signing off, remember, ladies and gentlemen, this man right here has a family, just like you have a family. This man right here wants to continue to live out his legacy and just live life. Pray for him. It costs nothing to pray for him. Whatever you have against what his profession is, or even we're going to break it down even more ridiculous. If you don't like Caucasians, aka white people, I want you to put that to the side, because right now we have a pandemic going around that doesn't care if you're white, black, Asian, or anything. It will kill you. It will kill you. Pray for this man, and please just give him a warm gratitude for taking the time out to have this interview with me. And we look forward to having you back, Mark, and you being in good health, man.
Thanks,
So
brother. Hey, I
we're
want to
going.
thank you. This was amazing.
It was a
Eye
long
opening.
time coming.
It was. So
It
I was
was.
able to throw a couple more questions in there for you. But I mean, this was great. I can only, dude, I can only put you on a pedestal and tip my hat to you. I can only imagine what you've gone through over the last 12 years.
Definitely, man.
I mean,
I appreciate
everything I hear is amazing, and you have one heck of an inspiration. I
Thank you,
can't
man.
wait to meet the little man.
Thank you, man.
We
Same
gotta
thing, man.
we gotta hang out.
Listen, man, once this pandemic is over, man, we getting together, we gonna barbecue, we gonna throw it all, we gonna chop it up. So I'm looking
Sounds good to
forward to
me.
it, man. So definitely we'll be in touch. I'll get in contact with you. Hold on. Okay, do you want to